Billionaire finds his former love and his two missing daughters. Snow fell like tiny shards of crystal, dancing between the tall buildings of Fifth Avenue. Inside, in the back seat of a luxurious armored SUV, was Damian Wolfe, a man the world knew as unbeatable. He had built empires, doubled markets, signed billion-dollar contracts with a simple nod. Nothing fazed him, except that moment. Through the window fogged by his own breath, Damian saw something that stopped time. A young woman, huddled in the corner of the sidewalk, clutching two small girls to her chest. They stood still, as if the cold had trapped them there. The woman's coat was too thin. One of the childish faces was flushed, her lips trembling. The other girl hid her hands inside her mother's coat. Damian felt his heart tighten, as if someone had wrapped invisible strings around his chest. He touched the driver's shoulder. "Pull over. Now, sir. Just stop. Now." Before the driver could even open the door, Damian had already stepped out. The freezing air hit his face like a slap, but he didn't feel it. All he could see was that scene. The woman looked at him suspiciously. Her arms tightened around her daughters. Damian said quietly, his hands raised, "But are you guys okay?" The woman hesitated. Her eyes, shadowed by sleepless nights, looked into his. "We're used to it," he replied, almost in a hoarse whisper. Damian looked at the girls. One of them was visibly shaking. The other was watching him with a curious, almost frightened look. No one should get used to this. He pointed to a cafe across the street, its fogged windows exuding warmth and welcome. "Please, nothing much. Just something warm to eat. That's all." The woman hesitated, pride visible in every tense muscle. But when one of the girls coughed, a small, hacking sound, she relented. "Just to eat," he said firmly. Damian assured. They crossed together. As soon as they entered the cafe, the warmth enveloped their cold bodies like a forgotten embrace. The aroma of fresh coffee, baked bread, and melted chocolate made the girls open their eyes as if they were facing a miracle. They sat in a cozy corner near a soft heater. Damian took off his coat and sat across from the woman and the girls. Now, in the light of the place, he saw her more clearly. She was young, but her eyes bore the exhaustion of someone who had already faced invisible wars. Her delicate features still held traces of a forgotten beauty. "What's your name?" he asked. The woman looked at her daughters, then at him. "Elena." "And them?" "Sophie and Ivy. 6 years." Damian smiled kindly. "Beautiful names." He called the waitress. "2 mugs of hot chocolate, with lots of marshmallows. And let them choose what they want to eat, please." The girl smiled, and for a moment the harshness of life receded. Damian watched every gesture carefully. The way Ivy split the marshmallows in half to give her sister the same amount. The way Sophie held the mug with both hands, as if she wanted to absorb the heat directly through her skin. There was something sacred there, something no shareholders' meeting had ever shown him. "How long have you been on the street?" he asked, his voice low. Elena looked away to the window. "A few weeks. The shelter we were staying at closed. Since then, we've been trying." Damian felt a void open up inside his chest, a void that no amount of money had ever been able to fill. But now he was feeling it, really feeling it. "And your family?" She swallowed hard. "I have no one else. No parents. No siblings. No close friends. I've tried to seek help, but the doors are always closed. Silence fell, thick as the snow outside. And then came the question that would change everything. Have you ever lived in San Diego? She looked at him suspiciously. Yes. 6 years ago. Damian held his breath. Elena Voss. She recoiled slightly, as if she was seeing a ghost. How do you know my name? Damian already knew the answer, but he still needed to hear it. You read the Elena I spent a whole summer with. The architect. The woman who disappeared when I went to Switzerland. She nodded slowly. And you read Damian Wolfe. Now her eyes filled with unshed tears. I tried to warn you, she said, her voice cracking. I found out I was pregnant weeks after you left. But every time I called, your assistant answered. He said you'd moved on, that I should stay away. Damian felt his blood run cold. Mark? Elena nodded. He said it was your order. That you had a new life. That you didn't want that kind of trouble. Damian clenched his fists under the table. Mark had been fired 5 years ago for fraud, but the damage was already done. I never knew, he murmured. Never. I swear on all that is holy. I would have done everything differently. Tears fell from Elena's face now, but they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of relief. I didn't tell them who the father was. I didn't want them to think they had been rejected. Damian looked at the two girls. His heart sank like never before. Are they mine? Elena just nodded silently. Time seemed to freeze. For years, he had wondered what was missing in his life. Now he knew. Two little answers were sitting there, drinking hot chocolate and smiling at him with eyes that reminded him of his own. Damian took a deep breath, trying to contain the avalanche inside him. I lost 6 years, he said in a whisper, but I won't lose any more. Elena stared at him, skeptical. Part of her wanted to believe. The other was still bleeding. I don't want promises that evaporate with time, Damian. They've already lost too much. I'm not promising on impulse. I'm here. And tomorrow, I'll be here too. And the next day, and the next, until you no longer need to doubt. Outside, the snow was beginning to form a white blanket over the cars and sidewalks. Inside, something new was being born, fragile but alive. Do you have somewhere to sleep tonight? He asked. Elena hesitated. Her gaze fell on the girls, who were now finishing the last sips of their chocolate. I was going to try a shelter. Maybe somewhere downtown. Damian stood up. Come with me. Not to my penthouse. Not yet. But I'll get you something decent tonight. A comfortable, safe hotel. Just for today. No strings attached. She thought for a moment, but there was something in his tone, firm, gentle, undeniably real. Just for today, he said. Damian repeated, with a half-smile. 2 hours later, Elena put Sophie and Ivy to sleep in a clean, warm bed. The hotel room was modest, but it felt like a palace compared to the freezing nights on the sidewalk. The girls were at peace. For the first time in a long time, Damian stood in the doorway, holding a paper bag with 2 cartons of chocolate milk and fresh muffins for breakfast. Thank you, Elena said, her voice softer now. He smiled, tired but light. I'll be back tomorrow. Can I bring you coffee? She hesitated for a moment. Yes, you can. When the door closed, she leaned against it from the inside, closing her eyes. Outside in the cold Manhattan night, Damian Wolfe stared up at the snowy sky, feeling something he had never felt in the billions he had accumulated: purpose. The next morning, Damian arrived promptly at 8 a.m. He carried a tray with scrambled eggs, artisan breads, perfectly cut fruit, and 2 small cartons of chocolate milk. Elena opened the door with sleepy but not scared eyes. Behind her, Sophie and Ivy ran to see who it was. When they saw Damian, they smiled shyly, but without fear. "I brought coffee," he said, almost shyly, as if he were still asking permission to enter that world. "Come in. The table is over there." The morning passed like a light dream. The girls ate with laughter. Elena, more at ease, allowed herself to smile, a smile he hadn't seen since San Diego. After coffee, Damian made a proposal. "I know you may not trust me completely yet, but I'd like to buy them some new clothes. Coats, gloves, real boots. The cold is only going to get worse." Elena crossed her arms. The old reflex of resistance was there, but wavering, not as alms. No, as a father. That word hung in the air. She gave in. "Okay, but nothing fancy. I promise." The store was cozy, filled with sparkling display cases displaying end-of-season sales. Sophie clung to her mother's arm at first, while Ivy dashed down the halls toward a pair of silver sneakers with lights on the soles. Damian just watched. He didn't give orders. He didn't brandish the card like a weapon. He was present, all of it. When Sophie twirled around with a new pink scarf, Elena's eyes lit up, and for the first time in a long time she laughed. A light laugh. Incredulous. Real. On the way out, he suggested one more stop. A checkup. Both of them. Just to make sure they're okay. Elena froze. "I can't afford that. I already paid. You just have to say yes." After a long moment, she nodded. In the office, Sophie received the vaccine, squeezing Damian's hand tightly. Ivy was shaking slightly, but she faced everything with courage. He didn't make jokes. He didn't pretend to understand everything. He just stood there beside them, and as she watched them hold each other in her arms, Elena felt something inside her begin to change. A wall giving way. At the end of the day, the girls slept exhausted, nestled under clean blankets. Elena and Damian stood in the bedroom doorway for a moment, silent. She looked at him. "I still don't know what to do with all this." "You don't need to know," he replied softly. "We can figure it out together, one step at a time." She studied him, as if looking into unfamiliar territory, but for the first time, without fear. "Tomorrow, can you come back?" "I'll be here early," he replied, "with coffee." In the days that followed, a delicate rhythm formed. Damian showed up every morning, sometimes with books, other times just with a smile and genuine attention. He took the girls to the school at the nearest community shelter. He helped with chores. He told stories at night. And little by little, Elena began to trust, not out of necessity, but because, for the first time, someone stayed. Simple as that. He stayed. One afternoon, Damian noticed a spiral notebook slipping discreetly out of Elena's bag. Curious, he pulled it out slowly and opened it to the first few pages. His eyes widened. They were sketches. Perfect lines, refined details, interior and facade designs, ideas of spaces that breathed beauty. "Elena, is this yours?" She took the notebook back, almost embarrassed. "It's just an old habit. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything." The next day he handed her a card. A small, Humanized architecture company. They're looking for someone part-time. No rush. Just think about it. She held the card as if it were an entry ticket to another life. A week later, she was standing at the company's glass door, portfolio in hand, her heart beating like a drum. Inside were the drawings made between the early hours of the morning and whispers, scribbles created in shelters and night buses. And yet she walked in. As he walked out an hour later, the winter sun shone on his face. Damian was waiting for her across the street with 2 cups of coffee. Seeing the expression on her face, he smiled. "You did it, didn't you?" She nodded, still speechless. "I start on Monday." Damian held out his hand, offering her the coffee, and in an impulsive but sincere gesture, he hugged her. She didn't back down, and in that small gesture, Elena realized, maybe, finally, it was safe to believe again. That Saturday, Damian took the girls to the park. The sky was clear, the air still chilly, but there was something springy in the wind. Lily ran forward, laughing loudly. Sky, more cautious, walked hand in hand with him, her small steps trying to keep up with his. Elena watched from afar, sitting on a wooden bench. The sun was shining on her face, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel the need to watch every move. Security returned. The nights became softer, lighter. Damian began helping with schoolwork, laughing at Ivy's made-up answers, praising Sophie's drawings as if they were works of art. A bond appeared there, silent but firm. One night, Elena came home from work and found the 3 of them on the living room floor, surrounded by colored paper and glue. Ivy said, her eyes shining, "To hang in the window." Damian, he smiled, proud as if he were the inventor of the art. Elena laughed, but then she fell silent. Her heart was full and scared, because it was working. It was working, and that terrified her. Later, as they washed the mugs in the kitchen, Damian spoke, his voice low. "I know it's not simple. I know we have a broken past, but I want us to build something from now on." She looked at him. "What if it breaks again? Then we fix it. Together." The next day, Sky whispered a question to Elena over coffee. "Mr. Wolfe, is he staying?" Elena stopped, looked into her daughter's eyes. "Do you want him to stay?" Sky nodded. "Then I guess he will," he said with a calm smile. Later, as Damian read to the girls, Elena watched him, and he knew they loved him, even without knowing who he really was. And most importantly, he loved them too, in a pure form, present, without needing applause. That night, Elena waited until the lights went out, and then, sitting on the couch with Damian, she whispered, "I think it's time to tell." He turned around slowly. "He is sure?" She took a deep breath. "I think so. Tomorrow, during dinner." Damian nodded, eyes filled with pent-up emotion. "I'll be ready." At the next dinner, the apartment was brighter than usual. Soft lighting, favorite dishes, napkins folded carefully by the girls, who made sure everything looked special. Lily had lit 2 candles. Sky had insisted on placing flowers in the center of the table. Elena watched everything with her heart racing. Damian helped with the cutlery. He had put on a light blue shirt. His nervousness was there, but well hidden behind his smile. During dinner, the girls chatted about school, about a classmate who had eaten colored chalk, and about a drawing Sky wanted to hang on the wall. Elena and Damian looked at each other. The moment was coming. When the plates were almost empty, Damian slowly put down his fork. He took a deep breath. "Girls, can I tell you something?" Lily nodded, already excited. "Of course, sir." "Wolfe." Sky looked at him curiously. Damian looked at Elena. She nodded subtly. He turned his eyes to the little ones. "I like you guys a lot. Really. And there's a special reason for that. Something important." Lily tilted her head. "Are you going to tell a secret?" Damian smiled. "In a way, yes." He took a deep breath. "I am your father." Silence fell like a thick blanket. For a moment, the girls stood still, as if they didn't know how to process it. Lily was the first to react. "In truth, yes, my love," Damian replied, his voice breaking. "Really?" Sky looked paralyzed. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. "So you mean you love us?" Damian swallowed. "More than anything. You are my daughters, and I want to be here. For everything. Forever." Elena held back her tears in silence. Lily jumped off the bench and threw herself into his lap, laughing and crying at the same time. Sky hesitated, then went too. Her small arms wrapped around his neck, tight as if they never wanted to let go. Damian hugged them as if his life depended on it, because, in a way, it really did depend. Time, after that night, stopped being a burden and became a gift. The girls gradually started calling him Daddy, first in a low voice, then naturally. Damian learned how to pack lunchboxes, braid hair with tutorials on his phone, and memorize doll names and lullabies. And he discovered that no boardroom at the top of the world would make him feel as victorious as hearing them say goodnight, Daddy, before going to sleep. Elena flourished in her new job. Her ideas began to be noticed, praised, and taken seriously. She began to create again, to dream again. The marks of the fight were still there, but now they were scars, not open wounds. Damian made adjustments in his own life. Meetings only part-time. Weekends untouchable. Nothing, absolutely nothing, would take him away from the family he had almost lost forever. One night, he and Elena were on the terrace of the building, looking at the city lights. The girls were already asleep. The sky was clear, and there was a comfortable silence between them. "Do you regret anything?" he asked, in an almost childish tone. She thought for a few seconds. "I regret the time wasted, but not where we ended up." Damian nodded. "Me too." She leaned against his shoulder. "And Damian?" "Yes. Thank you for stopping the car that day." He chuckled softly. "Thank you for saying yes to hot chocolate." The marriage proposal came on a Sunday morning, without jewelry, without an audience. Just him, kneeling on the living room rug, with the girls beside him holding drawings that said, "Say yes, Mommy." And she said. The wedding was intimate. A garden on top of a building. Girls scattering petals. Sincere wishes. Real tears. Smiles full of the past, but looking to the future. Today, Damian Wolfe is still a billionaire, but nobody presents it like that anymore. Sophie and Ivy as father, Elena's husband, the man who almost lost everything, until he stopped for a second. This story is not about charity. It's not about saving someone. It's about letting yourself be transformed. It's about seeing when no one else does, reaching out when you don't have to, and being there when it means everything. It's about real love. That doesn't come with applause, but it is built in silence every day. If you've watched this far, your heart may be as full as ours. And if you're wondering if it's too late, if there's a way back after a loss, if it's still possible to start over, the answer is yes. It always is. Just stop. To hear. Choose again. Because the greatest riches in life are not in what you have, but who you decide to be. Every day. And if this story touched you, we have many others that will also move you and remind you of what really matters. And never forget, the greatest fortune anyone can build is a family.